He's like, where'd you go to kindergarten? And the reality is we went to kindergarten together. Not only that, but my mother was our kindergarten teacher. And he's like, we've been trying to find our kindergarten. Our group text has been trying to find this strange girl in our kindergarten family for years. And it was
in this random fabric store in the middle of a small town in the Delta.
Yeah. Well,
y'all were in the fabric store and somewhere else. Welcome back to another episode of At Home with Anderson Design Center. Today's episode is going to be packed full of color, personality, and design moments that make you lean in and think, I've never thought that, but I think I would actually love it. Today we're joined by two of our residential interior designers, Kim Johnson and Carol Crist. I know you probably recognize Carol from the first episode, and then you may recognize Kim from our High Point Market videos. If you haven't watched our first podcast episode, go back and watch it. We talk a little bit about a taco, experience. We were searching for some tacos somewhere one night. Kim was a part of that. She knows. Shout out to Leslie Blair again. We were fed well that day, but Kim was there for that. So to learn more about our taco experience, go watch episode 1. But no, we're super excited to have them here today. They have lots of personality. They are great friends. I said in the first podcast, Carol was like my second mother. Whenever we were at market, we actually joked and said it was a mother-daughter trip. Mm-hmm. So Lakin and I were obviously the daughters, and they were our mothers. So people ask you, like, "Oh yeah, it's just a mother-daughter trip, just at market." But I'm super excited for y'all to get to know Kim more today, to get to hear again from Carol. Kim, just to give a little backstory on Kim, she is a very experienced designer, and I'll let her tell a little bit more on that. But she's been at Anderson's for almost 15 years.
15 years.
15 years. So she's been here for a while, very experienced, just like Carol's got plenty of experience in the industry. So Kim, tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, history. One fun fact about Kim, she never meets a stranger. We'll talk a little bit more about that as time comes. But tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I, as you mentioned, I've been in this industry for a little while. Here for 15 years and also worked in design and everything prior to that for about 15 years. So kind of seems crazy. Mm-hmm. I have a degree from USM in interior design. It's a second degree. I got my initial degree from there, then got married, and about 2 years into that, we moved back to Hattiesburg, and I had fallen in love with design and found my passion, so I went back and got my degree in design, and so here I am.
Here you are. And you're great at what you do. And I know whenever we had Lindsay on, I said that I was Lindsay's assistant previously. So I was Kim's assistant also previously. Yes. That's how we got to be so close. And of course, now I still get to work with her and Carol as well. And these two are like the dynamic duo over here. They are just like moving and grooving best friends. They have inspired my love for color. And so I'm excited for you to get to hear from them a little bit more today on color and ways to incorporate it into your home and into your life and your spaces, and without being afraid of the commitment or afraid of, what it might do to your space. And so to start us off, we've done icebreakers. Everybody's been off the wall. Kim, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to ask y'all 2 different ones. So Kim, if you could only use one color family for the rest of your career, what would it be?
So probably greens.
Mm-hmm. I figured.
It's not necessarily my personal favorite color. Maybe talk more about that later. But it is definitely a color that I see as a neutral, and it's a color, it can range anywhere from, chartreuse, which I love and is really starting to become popular again, to, the mossy, earthy greens, and it's a color that everyone can respond well to and can be used, in any home.
I saw on Instagram the other day, somebody had made a comment to a designer was sharing a story, and she was like, somebody said that they were afraid of using the color green. It was a very specific situation, but she was like, I just feel like green is God's version of a neutral. Like, the grass is green. Like, there's so many shades of green. Like, green can be a neutral. I mean, you're sitting on a green sofa.
No,
it's not the most neutral sofa, but you are sitting on a green sofa. Now, Carol, similar to that question, if you could only use one pattern for the rest of your career, what would it be?
Oh.
I know it's hard.
That is a hard one.
It's a little bit harder than color, I feel like, because that's more of a range.
Well, here in the South, I would say like a floral pattern.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people like birds and stuff like that, and it just seems like florals, you know, even though this is not a typical floral, but I mean, you just look at it and you see, you know, little florals pretty much everywhere. And
I feel like that's so specific too to like where we are in the South and what you're thinking about when you're designing for clients and the showroom and what sells. And floral is probably one of the biggest patterns.
Like green, it's in nature.
Yeah.
Obviously.
They're natural elements.
It's a natural element that I think people respond well to.
Yeah, for sure. No, awesome. Well, that gets us right into that. So starting with Kim, I know as long as I've known you, as long as I've worked for you, you've always incorporated color. You've never been afraid of color. But I feel like that's something that a lot of customers or a lot of clients, homeowners are afraid to incorporate. It's a big commitment. What started your love for color? Have you always loved color? You know, how did that kind of get rolling?
I have. It's you're right. It probably goes back to childhood. I was the one that, you know, loved the Crayola boxes with the 120 colors and loved to line them up and stuff. And I have a core memory of being in first grade, and maybe not so much color related, but art related kind of situation where there was a coloring sheet and it had an animal on it, and I colored it, and I colored what I thought was my imagination of the animal, and I had the fur going on the animal, and came in the next day and had a frowny face on my thing. As you see, here I am at 55, and I'm still devastated 50 years later.
A little bit of trauma.
It was that I had colored outside the lines and drawn the fur on the animal. And, you know, at this point, you know.
It's just you.
It's just me, and I've always enjoyed coloring and art, and it's just something I've always been passionate about and love.
3 things about Kim. Kim loves color. Kim's never going to meet a stranger.
Never.
We were joking the other day. Like,
Never.
We will be in the most random places. And like we were somewhere, and Kim was like, "Oh yeah, I just wandered off and I met this person. I went to kindergarten with his cousin and yada yada yada." And I was like, how did that even come up?
Yeah.
Like, how did you put together that you went to kindergarten with this person that you met in a random fabric store?
He was telling somebody that I overheard where he was from, and it's this tiny little town in the Delta in North Mississippi. And I was like, wait a minute. You know, I'm from there. I lived there when I was a kid. And he was like, where'd you go to kindergarten to? And the reality is we went to kindergarten together. Not only that, but my mother was our kindergarten teacher. And he's like, we've been trying to find our kindergarten. Our group text has been trying to find this strange girl in our kindergarten family for years. And it was
in this random fabric store in the middle of a small town in the Delta.
Yeah. Well,
well, y'all were in the fabric store and somewhere else. But so you love color. You meet no strangers. And Kim loves a good pun on our Instagram. When you see Kim's jobs posted, it's 99% of the time going to have a pun or some kind of witty caption. That's like a Kim signature thing. So just know when you see it, that's Kim. No. So Kim is also another.
And aren't you glad I do?
Aren't you glad? I am. Y'all just wait for that job to be posted. That's a fabulous job, and it's coming soon. You'll see it. Whenever you see the orange, you'll know. And you'll know that Kim actually painted that orange. Little shameless plug there. She did paint that, so she's artistic. But another fun thing about Kim is that, Kim, I know from seeing some of your projects in the past, you are so great about, you start working with a customer, however many years ago it was. And then as their kids grow up, as, they move to different homes, as they maybe buy a second home or, a third home, or maybe that home's just in the mountains, something different. You are so creative in the fact that you are able to work with this one customer or this one family, and you really evolve with them. So I feel like the design, the elements evolve with the customers, but you still incorporate some of those staple pieces that make the customer who they are. But then also, too, you make it so unique. So, like, if it's a lake home, you bring in some of those, natural lake elements. Or if it's a mountain home, you kind of go a little more mountain-esque. Right. Tell us a little bit about that and how you form that trust and that relationship with those customers.
Well, from a design aspect, I do believe that a home should reflect the location of where it is, and I don't mean that by saying it should be a theme by any means. There's a beach house that,
Canoes in
may
every
have
room on the
witty
wall.
little sayings and seashells on the wall, and that's wonderful, and it has its plates and all, but there's a difference, in a beach house and a coastal home,
Yeah,
for
for
example. And a mountain home should, or a lake home should look like a lake home versus a beach home. I just feel strongly that things should look and reflect their surroundings and their architecture. And I've just been blessed and fortunate enough to have clients that trust me at these different phases in their lives, whether they're building their, their starter homes and their families are young, or they're empty nesters and they're, building an aging in place home, or a vacation home, something like that. And it really has been a blessing, and, that they trust me to do that. But it's also great because you learn from them. And the beginning is, and you develop these friendships and these relationships. And, I have a client right now that I literally met her 25 years ago. And we did a kitchen renovation, and here we are now working on our third project. And there's been years in between, but...
well, that's practical too. You know, you're obviously not going to come in and do a kitchen renovation and then in 2 years, most kids are not going to build a whole new home.
Right.
And so it's a process, but that shows too, their loyalty, but also their trust in you and your abilities and your design capabilities, because they do come back after 5, 10, 15 years, however long it is.
Yeah. And I think that, at that point, we've learned each other. I've learned their families. I've learned things that, are important to them, things that are special, and always, to try to incorporate those things from home to home as their families evolve and grow into different stages and seasons.
And so I love what you said too about you think about where the home is. And so you're designing more, not like you're not trying to be too thematic, having like a theme, like this is a beach house, but you're taking in consideration the location and the place, because I feel like that goes back into a lot of what Carol does for the showroom. When you said if you had to use one pattern, it would be florals because we're Southern. And so tell me, Carol, a little bit more from your perspective in buying for the showroom, how you kind of think about, buying things as far as trying to say, well, we are in the South, and somebody might buy stuff here and take it to their home in Florida or, in the mountains, but majority of our people that are in our closer proximity, how do you go about buying for this region?
A lot of it depends on what is going on in fashion and stuff like that. So I try to look at, like color trends and accessory trends and furniture trends, just all of that. And then I kind of have to bring all of that into the store to where I can show the designers what's going on so that they know, not that they don't keep up with it themselves, but just to put it in place.
Research.
Yeah, to put it in place and have it there ready for them to be able to show to their customers. So it's kind of like a jumping off point, and like whenever I painted the walls and stuff out there, everybody was just like, oh, wow, that's kind of cool. I like that. And then, then I started bringing in all the color pieces and stuff like that. So, and everybody started gravitating towards it, and everybody was just like so excited, not to just see whites and light blues and little pastels and stuff. And Kim was like, "It's finally my time."
It's finally color season.
So, it's fun for me because it's like in the store we're introducing it to our wonderful clients and stuff like that. And, to see them react to it's always fun,
And it's been so well received. I know the last showroom reset that you did was so well received. Like, I mean, it was 2 days later and there's red sold tags on everything. I kept telling Mr. Anderson, I was like, I feel like I'm walking in the door to a sea of red because it's like sold, which obviously is great on your part because you're buying and it's selling and the designers are loving it and the customers are loving it. And with that being said, I know people are probably wondering what our little goodie box is down here. And so with that being said, a lot of things in our showroom floor sold very quickly. And so that's some new stuff that we have coming in that does lean more in that color range. And some of those are the things that were ordered at market when we went to High Point. Show us some of the things that we have coming in so people know what to expect for fall.
So we just got this little color palette on the floor, which I'm so excited about. It's a mixture of chairs and sofa and pillows. So the sofa, I don't actually have that fabric in here. The sofa is a neutral, but introducing color on the floor is it's a little scary, but anyway, we went with the neutral sofa. We did do the cute little chairs in this fabric here with
They're so
dressmaker
precious.
skirts. I have a picture of
love-
Holland sitting in these chairs for market, and she just looks so precious.
So I will say a fun fact about those chairs. It was our last day of market. I know everybody saw the video. We were like, I'm weak as water.
We were so tired.
We were so tired. And we were in our last showroom of the whole trip, and we walked in and I sat and I fell in love with this cute little pleated skirt chair in that fabric, which is pink and feminine and girly and all the things. But we needed like one more thing for our order. And Carol was like, you want that chair? And I was like, get the chairs. Get the chairs.
I love that chair.
So we just got the chairs in and they are fabulous.
precious.
I
They're
love
fabulous.
the chairs. But it's color, it's feminine,
Right.
it's different, it's unique.
Right. And then we have this beautiful color here that's in. And I mean,
love the green.
Kim, do you remember whenever I found this fabric?
I do.
We were in Atlanta and we were at ADAC and, just going through all the fabrics and everything. And I found this fabric. And I mean, when you see like the full panel of it, it's
beautiful.
Amazing. And I was like, how long did I hold on to that? Do you remember? Was it a year
Probably
or two?
a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Y'all are both fabric hoarders. Everywhere. Y'all have
Yes.
samples
And I was like, I'm
everywhere,
going to
the two of
use
y'all.
that. I'm going to
We
use
do
that
love some
someplace.
samples.
Yeah,
Yeah.
y'all will hoard some fabrics.
Yeah, and I mean, but it's got so many colors in it. Like you can put it with so many different things,
Yeah.
But with this sofa, it just looks absolutely amazing. And going into fall, I like to kind of transition the showroom into fall colors and stuff like that. But again, you still have to think what's going to go in somebody's home and stuff. What are the designers going to be able to use? So, we still have like this is a neutral here. But how long have I been wanting to do a printed sofa?
Again,
A long time.
a long time,
A long
several years.
time. Well,
So-
it's like
Several
now
years.
that you've gone from like the people are not so the customer, our customers, the people now that the customers, the people that are walking in the door are not so afraid of color.
Right.
It's easier to introduce some
Right.
pattern.
And it's like once you see everybody's reaction to how the showroom changes and stuff, it's kind of easier to make that step, And I've loved this color for probably a year now. And
It's almost like a gold.
Yeah. Yeah. And like that pillow that you're sitting on right there, those gold tones are really big. And anyway, so we do have a sofa coming in this fabulous print. And then, to tone it down a little bit, we went with chairs in this fabric. And then we did the piping on this chair has like a little cupcake flange. So it's a little different. It's not just like a welt going around the cushion. It's going to have a cupcake flange. And then at the bottom of the chair, it'll also have like a little tab up this running at the bottom. So it's introducing color, but in very specific ways to where the clients will not be deterred by it.
Yeah.
So,
And then what about our fabulous green Taylor King sofa that
Okay,
we do
so
have
this
coming in? That
one-
was another market
Yes.
find.
But again, it was another printed sofa that I saw, and I had been wanting a printed sofa, and I was like,
But that's so unique.
I know,
to me,
it really
just
is.
the texture of that, the pattern.
And-
It's still the green neutral. It's
Yeah.
still a neutral.
and it's got just a little bit of a lilac and a burgundy purple in it. So it's so nice and refreshing to see the textures and the colors that are actually coming in now. And it's called the heritage look is what they've been calling it. And it's so nice to see again because it's kind of like our age.
Well, and I feel like too, it can kind of I'm sorry I'm roped out of that one, but it can kind of make things a little more fun and kind of push creative boundaries, coloring outside the lines
Right.
a little bit more because not everything is so white or so
Right.
neutral.
Right.
Like even if it's a green and we're calling
Right.
it a neutral, it still creates a little more oomph. And then that's
Right.
one of all of our favorites. We just all swooned over that one.
And then we have a full king size bed coming in this magnificence.
Yep. And whenever people see our orange, aren't you glad it's 5 o'clock? They'll see that beautiful fabric in a shade.
I used it in a shade in a project, and
a little Roman shade.
really pretty.
And then we have like a nice little
Such fun ways though, just to bring in and color. But to me, it's not overbearing,
right.
but it's still so different than what
Nice
we
little
have
ottoman
now.
coming in this to go with it.
So I know whenever you're designing for the showroom, and this applies to both designing for a home, designing for a showroom, you keep our showroom very cohesive. So, if you've got, whenever you're designing vignettes, and I think sometimes people don't realize this, whenever you're designing vignettes, you're kind of carrying colors through the store. And so you're not going to have like one vignette. They're not so singular. They're all very different, but they all blend just like you would in a home. What are your kind of thought processes on that in regards to the showroom? And then I'm going to ask him on that, as far as incorporating color in a house and, so forth.
So when you walk into the showroom, like if you've ever been in here, whenever I'm studying the showroom, I'm looking at the colors at the very front door. And whenever people walk into that showroom, I need their eyes to move, but everything still has to be cohesive. So I've got a back wall over here that needs to carry all the color in the full showroom. And then, it's a little difficult. I'm not going to lie.
It's a lot. Well, and the thing is, too, there's no walls. There's no walls.
Right.
And so we're in a house, you have walls. So, Kim, tell me, if a customer's like, hey, I want to incorporate color. I don't want to sensory overload myself, but I want everything to flow. What is your approach for that?
Well, two things too, back to something Carol was just alluding to that she does such a great job of. I have a project right now, and as a matter of fact, yesterday we were getting ready to take some furniture and some things that they had looked at, but we needed a few pieces, and I started looking and I'm like, oh, I can pull that table from that vignette, and I can pull that from that vignette, and some were neutrals and some had some color, and some had different things, and so I came up with a whole look and a whole different thing, but using Carol's vignettes and incorporating that,
The pieces are diverse enough.
And so, she does a great job of that. And
that's the thing that I like too is like, I like that whenever I bring certain pieces in and I have something in mind for it, and then y'all come in and y'all use it in a totally different way and make it look just as fabulous. That's what I love about, everything that we do up here.
Right. And, I generally come at a project more from a construction stance. I do mostly new construction, some renovations, which I'm very passionate about. I'm extremely happy. I grew up, my grandfather was a carpenter. I grew up construction sites. I remember my parents building the home that they still live in that I grew up in, when I was 10 and playing in the sand piles and the sawdust and, building my own little house with the wood lumber scraps and everything. So maybe that was a foretelling, I guess, of what my future career would be.
That and your sad face on your art.
Yes, my frowny face. But the coming at it from a construction standpoint, you start from the ground up and you're picking things, you're picking shingles, you're picking brick, you're picking mortar, and all of that, really does need to be, architecturally appropriate for whatever the home is. But generally those are your neutrals. Those are your things that you want to approach, and that I try to lead my clients and guide my clients into things that, things you're never going to want to replace, things you're never going to want to have to, swap out or whatever if you get tired of them. Things like, potentially the wood floor, things that are structurally, parts attached to the house. From a standpoint of that, keep those, neutral, keep those classic, keep them timeless, don't go for the trend necessarily, because what is trendy right now or what you may love now may not be what you love in the future. But then bring in your color and your fun things and your fun patterns. Maybe that's it could be a small tile backsplash. There's some gorgeous, amazing mosaics right now that could be utilized in just a little small area, whether it's a black backsplash or a little, a powder room bath floor or something like that.
Just gives it that wow.
Yeah, your
that wow
wallpapers. I mean, the wallpapers right now are
It's so
fantastic
fun.
Fabulous.
and amazing, and even just, I love texture. Grass cloth is coming back, and that can be a color, because you get the variations, even though they're all natural tones. So, telling a customer, don't be afraid of color. I think some people perceive color as you mean, a brightly colored Hawaiian shirt or a neon pink something or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily what color means. We all have color and we all use color that, we may not even be aware of. And everybody has a color that they respond to or, that helps them feel a certain
and it adds
way.
so much warmth and personality to a space, and it makes it feel more like, their home rather than just a spec home, for lack of better words, or a home that they just, purchased and it's just somebody else's, blank slate. But, setting that, like you said, setting that kind of timeless foundation with your flooring and, the more permanent, higher priced, I guess you would say, items that you're not going to switch out as often. You're not going to come in and replace your floors every 5 years, whereas you could replace your rugs and your pillows or whatever you wanted it to be.
Or something.
Yeah, you can replace those easier, I guess. It's not as hard. But no, setting the tone there. So how do you like to kind of carry, in those softer finishes, let's say you've laid that neutral, you've laid that timeless foundation. How do you like to carry color through a house? Do you like to introduce certain colors in, the foyer and try to kind of stay within those same colors, or do you like to pull in different? What are your kind of approaches on that, or is it really just client specific?
I think it is client specific, but as a designer, that's what we learn in design school is how to do that in a way that's not so obvious. Like what Carol was explaining in the showroom, that's not obvious to the average person that walks in the showroom.
Right. Yeah.
They just know it's pretty. They know it looks good. They know they feel comfortable and at ease, but they don't quite register why.
Yeah.
And it's because there is that process of getting there, and you start in a foyer and you've got a wallpaper or a rug or something that has blues and greens and whatever the other colors are. And then when you move into the next space, you might just have a little blue pillow over in the corner thrown on a chair that brings the blue in. And then you move to another space and there might just be a little, touch of red and a fabric or, a piece of art or something.
Yeah.
So you don't, want the entire house to look that it's all the same color. It's not a paint by numbers house where all the colors, use this shade of red in each room or whatever.
But it flows.
But it's a subtleness and a flowing that gives the home a cohesive feel.
And that's the good thing about starting off with someone like you. You can start from the very beginning with a color palette and then take it throughout the house.
Everything feels very intentional. And one thing we really haven't touched on at all is window treatments. I know we haven't talked about those a lot in the other episodes. And that's something I think would be fun. I feel like when people think window treatments, sometimes they just think, okay, blinds, shutters, some standard curtain drapes, but more so I've seen a lot of really fun printed or some patterned drapes with maybe some fun fringe or like a leading edge. What have y'all been kind of playing with or seeing, or what's something y'all would kind of like to incorporate in the future as far as getting more color and pattern involved in draperies?
Okay, I'm just going to say, I would really like to see those even with a pattern, I would like to see those leading edges be just so much fun. Like, not a rickrack, but, just something that has a little texture to it. And then add like a little something in the middle and then do another one.
And for those that don't know, the
side.
leading edge would be like, when you're closing
correct.
The
drapes, it would be the two front leading pieces, the seams.
So on that vein, I did some draperies recently in a master bedroom, and we did a bell fringe, and it's that hand knotted bell fringe that kind of you don't really know till you get close what it is, but it just has some funness, whimsy funness.
And I think that's what I'm enjoying about what's coming next. It's like everything's going to be like so fun and so detailed and everything's
Everything
just
is kind of
have
going more
detail to
so
it.
in that maximalist, for lack of better words, it's kind of going more in that maximalist kind of range. I feel like people are bringing in more pattern, more color. But I've also seen, and tell me your thoughts on this, I've seen recently several posts, I know like on Instagram from other designers or firms or whatnot, and they'll do like the wallpaper. I mean, they're taking it to the extreme. It's like the wallpaper, the drapes, everything is the exact same pattern. How do y'all feel about things like that? Just honest opinion.
Well, that was my bedroom. And I think Paige
back
alluded to that in a previous podcast. I don't know what order these are going to air.
Theirs is already
but
live.
When
so,
my
yes.
parents built the home, like I said, when I was 9 and started building the home that I grew up in, and my bedroom had blue and white wallpaper, and I had the canopy bed with the blue and white canopy that matched the wallpaper,
Paige's
and the blue and white
Paige didn't
bedspread,
get her
and the blue and
canopy
white
bed.
sham. And, yeah, it was all the things till I broke the canopy, because that was also during the Olympics, and I
you were
wanted to be a
swinging.
gymnast.
I did
and,
the same thing.
I was going to be Mary Lou Retton when I grew up. It didn't work out for me.
Big aspirations.
And I do see some of that coming back, but what I also see is just that clever mixing of the patterns, where every pattern on every surface isn't the exact same pattern like it was in the 80s.
Yeah, but it
But
works.
this new mixing of patterns, maybe you have a small scale floral and a large scale floral, but they're the same color palette, and then it's just just
It's like when
bringing
it's
that all
so-
together,
And that's what makes design fun,
And that doesn't always have to play into pattern either. It could just be a texture, or it could be, a color, shades of the same color, a monochromatic look, but it could all be, like Carol's shirt, it does have a pattern, but it has, probably 5 or 10 shades of green in that same shirt. And so I think you can do it in a lot of different ways.
And I think people are subconsciously becoming more open to mixing patterns. So I know, like with fashion, we always kind of go back to fashion. People mix patterns and colors so much more now than I feel like what they used to. I know, like Carol and I love Bradley King, and she's so fun, but she is not afraid to mix anything.
Oh,
and
no,
some of her
not at
outfits
all.
are a little far fetched, but she will mix color and pattern. And I've been seeing on Instagram and Pinterest and TikTok all these people that are like, how I would style Bradley King, and I'm looking and I'm scrolling, and it's like they're mixing stripes and this and that, and they're mixing colors and textures, and I'm like, it's in fashion, so people are becoming more open to it. So then it's like you start to see it carry into home design as well, which is really neat and cool, and it creates such a difference, you know.
Well, I think people are ready to feel
They're ready for it. Yeah.
happy and just comfortable, and know that their home is their sanctuary, and their kids are there, and it's just it's kind of evolving over. For a while, there was
Everything was a little sterile.
it was a little sterile, the gray and white, which is beautiful, but it wasn't, homes and color and everything are like everything. They evolve and they
evolve,
change,
yeah.
and
Well, that's
things
just
like
the
that.
way of the nature of the world.
Yeah.
But no, it's just cool to see the progression, and then people coming in that maybe do have a gray and white home, and it's beautiful, but they may
Absolutely.
add a wallpaper somewhere.
Right, and that's what I was
Or-
saying.
yeah.
Your basics are neutrals, but you can throw something in there.
And it's fun to see too, you see it in fabrics, so people are more open to, mixing textures and patterns and colors, but then you also see it too in like accessorizing. So I know, like in the showroom, Carol does a beautiful job of layering things. And so I always notice whenever we go back and photograph vignettes to share, my favorite ones, and I think your favorite ones too, are always the ones that have the most layers to them, for lack of better words. It's like there's so many pieces that she so perfectly adds. And I feel like for me, that's a little intimidating. I'm like, you come in and you're like, I'm just going to put this and that and that. And I'm like, it's so much, but it's so perfect. Like more is more. More is not clutter, more is better. So how do you go about, staging the showroom vignettes in a way that doesn't feel cluttered, but it feels layered, but intentional?
Oh, it takes a long time. I'm not going to lie.
Which is okay. I think people need to know that,
Yeah,
because I think
because-
people think it just should come to life.
Yeah, like a lot of times I'll do it on a Sunday or something like that, because honestly, doing the small details and figuring out where every little accessory is going to go and what colors actually work and it, to make it perfect and to make the showroom sing the way I like for it to, it takes about 25,000 steps on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Going back and forth to either the accessory room or wherever, and it's like, oh gosh, what did I do with that one? That would be perfect. And then it's like, oh, did somebody sell it? What's going on? It's just.
There's no like true,
there's
format
no method to it.
accessorizing things. There's no.
And again, when you see me standing at that front door just looking at everything, it's all got to just be perfect.
Yep. And I think when people understand, that's what y'all are good at, that's what the other designers are good at, is accessorizing and layering. Because I know a lot of times people will come in and they'll get the larger pieces, but when we'll go in to take photo shoots, we'll end up, staging or doing, and the customers always are like, how did you do that? You used either a lot of what was in my home plus some of your stuff, or either we brought in, a good bit of things, whatever it may be. They're like, it looks so livable, but perfectly curated and styled. And we're like, well, that's what we do, well.
And I mean, coming in and buying a sofa is great, and stuff like that. But whenever people let you come to their house and they're like, just, I need you to accessorize my house. That's what I'm just telling you. That's when it comes to life. That's when it just becomes
and I
your
think
home.
That the true, testament to that is that whenever things sell in the showroom so quickly, it's not whenever the vignette is typically unfinished. It's once you've finished styling the full vignette and somebody's like, oh, I want that and that and that. And I think what they don't realize is yes, that sofa's beautiful, but it's beautiful because it's, styled as well.
Correctly.
So it's like, yes, you're taking the sofa home with you, but it also needs to be styled with either what's in your home or what you can purchase elsewhere or from here, what extra you can purchase to style it.
Right.
Well, and in that vein, when you start with a construction, outlook on that, and you really start, with a set of floor plans, and you put a wood floor on the counter, and then you start putting a tile that goes with it, and then you start putting a paint color with it, and then all of a sudden this, white box becomes a home.
Yeah.
And it has to do with bringing all of those things together and all those textures, and then you start layering the furnishings and, the rugs and the wallpapers and the window treatments and everything. And I think, layering is also, it's definitely a way to add texture, and a way to add color depending on what you're layering. But it is also what can make your house a home. When you layer your personal photographs, when you layer, that antique piece of furniture that you inherited from your grandmother, or, it's important to me that a home, even if it's a new construction home or if it's a second home or whatever, that you bring those pieces in, that it always has, a soul to it, for lack of a better word. And it doesn't look like, you walked into a store and bought a set as much. And Carol does this great job in the showroom of showing, customers, our customers, other customers, when you walk in, because she does mix in those pieces, those antiques. And, occasionally you'll find a piece, you'll walk through and be like, oh, that vase is great.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that's not for sale. Carol bought that from her house.
From her house. That's
but
her
it's because
stash.
it's showing the personal touches and the things that you can collect and people do collect over time and can bring their things into a project. They don't, have to start from scratch every time to make it feel like their home and be what they want it to be.
And that's one of the things you do too, is like you'll go to your customers and say, what pieces do you want to bring into this new house, and you work with them on that.
Well, they're surprised sometimes, because when we sit down, literally, our first meeting, and we've got the floor plan or we've got, whatever, and as we talk through the style and the things that they are drawn to, and I'll say, well, are you bringing any rugs with you from your existing home, or do you have any? And they'll, I hadn't really thought. That's the benefit of bringing in a designer
from the front end,
from the beginning, because, not only are we looking at your wall color, but we're thinking ahead to what you have that you're going to bring into the home, that you're going to make it yours and your family's, and we're we're wanting to make sure that we think, ahead of the game and kind of not just,
Yeah.
walk in the room. Oh, I like that,
Yeah. And I can hold you to the fact that you do that to a T, because I will never forget whenever I was playing paper dolls with one of your houses. You gave me the set of floor plans whenever I was your assistant. You were like, hey, I have these floor plans. This is everything they're going to bring. They had a good bit of like family heirlooms and such that they were bringing. And you were like, can you measure some of their pieces, or here's the dimensions, and will you cut them out and lay them on the floor plan so we can see how they'll fit? And I was like, we are playing paper dolls today.
We did, but wasn't
sure
it
enough,
fun?
we did. It was so much fun. And we ended up upgrading to our magnetic board that we got. But I remember we cut out like they had these rugs that had been in their family for forever. And so we had like the custom sized rugs, and then we had a couple of like antique pieces that the homeowner had inherited from her mother or her great aunt or whoever it was. And we had them like, will they fit here? Will they fit there? And how will this work? And then that goes to, to your expertise and, going back to the drawing board, and sometimes floor plans are tweaked for,
Well, yeah, I know many times, like I said, I love the act of construction, the process of construction, to see the walls going up and to see the different things. And a lot of times I'll look at that and I'll be like, if we just move this door over 6 inches, we can do this. And maybe that, or maybe that, outlet needs to be here so we can plug in that particular lamp or whatever. And thinking that far ahead, it's just the way my mind works. But if you have to think that in the beginning before you're too far, because changes like that can cost a lot of money if they're done too late in the process. And, a change order is never desired, but even sometimes they can be really expensive, and you don't want to be the one that points out that to a customer too late in the game, and then it ends up costing a lot of money or making an impact on the budget. So
that's one of the major pros of somebody coming in, and because you're specifically in we say builder services, but you're really in the more new construction, full scale home design area in our building. And so a lot of your customers are coming in with a set of plans, and I feel like most of the time they haven't broken ground yet. Right. And so you have the chance to, draw on those plans a little bit and do and play and say, hey, you could tweak this or move this. And, functionally speaking or aesthetically speaking, or, just looking from a larger scale of, hey, I'm not just giving you a, random floor plan, or they'll bring them in from somebody else. But you're not just saying, hey, we're going to build whatever off this random floor plan. We're going to tweak it and make it a little bit more geared toward you and your life and how it can be more functional and design oriented. Right. So, but that's just one of
fun.
It comes with your knowledge and your expertise and all the fun things. But it shows. I feel like it really shows when you walk into a house and you know that a designer has had a little bit of a, twist in there. There's some things that you're like, a designer probably thought that out, or an architectural detail that a designer was like, an arch or I know Kim and I always talk about Alice Beach. And their architectural details just are incredible.
Amazing.
They're incredible. And I know I have 1,005 pictures from Alice Beach, and I know you do
As
too,
do I.
on your phone. And I would just scroll back and look through, and I'm like, how do these people even think of this stuff?
Just the little plaster detail in the corner of a door, or the something can just add so much personality to something.
Yeah.
And you just...
It just elevates the whole space.
It doesn't add a lot of money sometimes to the plan, but once it's suggested, becomes an inspiration point.
Yeah, for sure. And so as we kind of start to wrap things up, I would love for you to tell me about Kim, specifically. I would love for you to tell me about one of your favorite projects, whether it's a renovation, whether it's new construction, whatever it may be, over your 15 years at Anderson's plus, prior experience elsewhere. What would be one of your favorite projects that you've worked on?
That I've worked on or currently am working on?
Yeah, it can be current. It can be past.
Wow. There's lots. Right now I'm working on one that's really, really fun. It's a little out of the box. You're smiling because you know what I'm talking about. This particular client I met several years ago, and we did, their home and that they live in now, and then we did a home that it's a piece of property that's been in their family for many, many years. It's multi-generational. There are other family members and children living on the property in different homes and everything. And right now we're building a pickleball court and what we like to call the pickleball palace.
I love it.
It's, what you would think of as your traditional maybe pool house or bunkhouse, lake house type situation. There's a lake on the property. But it's a pickleball court.
I love it.
And so it's really fun. It's just fun. There's a bunk room. There's another area for the kitchen. There's some outdoor things, and I'm super excited.
I think it's one of the most fabulous things I've ever seen you do, and it's not even obviously to fruition. I mean, it's in progress.
Yeah.
I mean, I even went out there with you, 2 years ago?
Yeah, to the main home, to the client's main home. We did some photos.
But that, just goes to show that, her clients love her and they love what she does because, I mean, she's been working with this family for a long time and they trust her,
But no, that's going to be a fabulous project. I can't wait to be able to share it.
And I love anyone that knows me, and y'all know me, that I love travel. Anything travel related, I'll go anywhere with anybody, anytime.
So let's just open the door and go.
Pick me up, open the door, and I'll jump in.
Let's go.
But some projects that I have that are outside of the greater Hattiesburg area, I guess, that I'm really excited. Potentially a project coming up in Nashville, and I've done some things. The pickleball courts actually over in Louisiana, and
across that state line.
I'm very inspired by travel and art. Those are just really things that I'm passionate about. And like you said, I love to go down to Alice Beach and some of those areas down there and just grab a cup of coffee and stroll for hours and just look at,
Well, traveling is so inspiring,
They may call the police on me at some time. Like there's a strange woman just walking around our neighborhood. She might be lost. But
peeping your head in an open house or two.
Yeah.
But
it's a good day when you find an open house.
Open house in Alice Beach.
I'm usually honest. I'm not in the market to purchase, but I am just looking.
I am a designer, and I would love to design one of these houses. Let me just tell you.
Yes.
That would be a dream. But no, that is cool to see. Obviously, you can cross state lines. You've done it. And it's doable and it's possible. And I think that's really cool, too, because like you said, different location, different design elements. It just opens a whole nother creative box. So I think that's super cool. I'm excited for that project. I'm going to give y'all a couple quick fire questions. So this or that type situation.
No, you go first.
I'm going to let whoever wants to go first. So first one is color you'll never stop using. What is one color you would never stop using? It doesn't have to be a specific color name, but...
I mean, always green. I'm sorry, but green.
Yeah.
Green.
So, again, my personal favorite color is orange and coral and any shade thereof, but that's a hard sell sometimes to clients. So I'm probably going to stick with my green because you can find a shade of green that just about everyone will respond to. And if it's not a green, if they're just like, I just don't like green. I'm like, well, let me show you this blue. It has a touch of green in it.
It's a blue
So
green.
it works.
If I tell you it's blue, it's blue.
Yeah. And occasionally you get someone, the spouse may be colorblind, and then you can just tell them what the color is, and they go with it.
Hunter's like, what color is that? I'm like, it's brown. It's brown. It's not purple. It's brown. What is, in your opinion, this could go a ton of different ways. What is one of the best splurges you can make in a home?
The best what?
One of the best splurges. Something you would spend some money on. Tell me.
Fabulous chandeliers.
Yeah. Lighting. I love lighting.
Well, honestly, I think if I'm looking at it from a construction aspect, sometimes a splurge is a good designer.
Hey, that's a really good point.
To bring in a designer, someone from the start, maybe that's not part of, and all designers, us too, we work in all different formats and different, ways that we charge for our services. And sometimes they're complimentary even when you're working through, Anderson's. So sometimes that may not be in your budget, but you might realize in the long run, it gives you a project that you're extremely pleased with, and it shows you things that you never thought of that really are in your budget. You may think you can only afford a certain thing, but
Pinterest can only take you so far. Sometimes.
Maybe a good designer.
I would agree.
And if not a good designer, a great chandelier.
Or both. Why not?
Both, yes.
Why not? A great designer that will pick you out a beautiful
something that makes your
chandelier.
house yours. Something that makes your house yours,
yes,
and not
for sure.
a cookie cutter.
Yes. Okay. Next is, what is a pattern you'll always love, personally?
You go first. I don't know. I
Let her think.
love patterns. I
You
just
do.
love all of them.
You do.
It's funny. I've always kind of liked a block print, and that's something that's kind of coming back. And I don't know if it goes back to, an art class where we carved the little blocks and things, and we made the things. But the block prints, whether they're, nature oriented, what most people in South Mississippi know of as, Walter Anderson. Style of art and prints. So I think anything along those lines, I like those.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Love
so,
it. Carol?
Making.
I just like to make everything work together. I don't know.
You can't pick a favorite.
I can't.
You can't
I
pick,
really
it's okay.
can't.
You don't have to pick a favorite.
Okay.
We won't make you.
Yeah.
What would be your dream city to design a home in? Dream city.
City?
City.
Oh.
Or
Have to be a city?
No, it can be like place.
Place.
Dream place to design
Okay.
a home in. Town, city,
I would
state.
love to have somebody that has like 1,000 acres or so where
I knew
can,
where
like,
you were going with that as soon as
where
you said
I could
city.
She's a country
design it
girl, yeah.
from, the entrance to the property, and I could actually place trees where I wanted to place them, do the landscaping.
Yep.
And then, one of my favorite places that we've been is the Biltmore Mansion. And when I tell you, it's everything that I would like to do, from driving through the front gate to the paths that you take, and to then see the reveal of the house. Something like that is what I
Somewhere
would like.
with a lot of land. In
But
the
yeah,
country.
but that's the country girl coming out in me.
Yeah, I will never forget. It surprised me so much. People were just, because Carol does all the beautiful things in our showroom. I feel like people would assume, oh, she's a city girl, or she's a, whatever. We're driving down these little country roads, and Carol's like, it's so beautiful. And I'm like, it's flat.
Okay.
Or in the Delta, it looks
The
like.
times
It's
that
flat
I've been around
farmland.
Carol and we laugh and she goes, "It's so pretty, Kim. It's so pretty."
I'm like, it's
and we
flat.
laugh. It's kind of our thing now. I'll just be like, "Carol, it's so pretty."
Yep.
And like,
Any,
when
a
when
tree
at a
or
cornfield.
when I'm out at the farm, how many times do I just send you reels? I'm like, look how beautiful
It's
it is
beautiful.
out here.
And it is beautiful. And you see all the land. But it threw me off because I wasn't expecting that before.
Right.
I knew you knew. I was like,
While I'm out there chopping trees and,
Yeah.
Yep.
doing
I
the
was
country
like-
girl thing.
yep. But
That's my favorite. What about yours, Kim?
So, I would love to do a full scale, ground up, coastal.
I figured that's
home.
where you were going to go.
It's
And by
so funny.
coastal, I
from
don't
the
necessarily
two.
mean on the beach, although I would love to do one that's sitting
On
on
the
the beach,
beach.
down in Alice Beach or anywhere thereof. But I just mean a coastal project, maybe it could even be, Charleston or
Yeah.
just somewhere that's near the water and kind of has that feel. That speaks to me.
I have to tell y'all. So for her Christmas present last year, got it from Bergdorf Goodman's in
Yes,
New York
in
for
New
her.
York.
But it was the cutest little Santa Claus, and he had like a green and a coral and maybe a lilac coat on.
Robe or
And it had
all
little
your
seashells
colors.
and stuff on it.
just,
I mean, it was
she knows how much I love the beach
her.
and the
Christmas in
water
the sand.
and just
I
the
love
coast
it.
and
It's very you.
and even like can't think of the right word, but like a Kiawah Island or something.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily talking,
It doesn't have to be
beach, but just the coast.
so beach. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I love that we've got a coastal and we've got a little country.
Little country girl. Little
Which
coastal girl.
makes more sense once you elaborate on what you mean by
Right.
coastal
Yeah.
and country. And like
Right.
people get it.
Yeah.
Okay, one last thing. What is one thing that you think every home needs? It could be anything, but one thing you're like, every home's got to have it. A well designed or well furnished, or just one thing that you think every home needs, in your opinion, to feel complete.
Me, you.
Look, who's gonna answer this
I
one?
think everyone's home needs a place where they feel at home.
Yeah.
And, whether that's, a man cave, so to speak, or a media room, or a place where, a man can go and just watch his football games
Yeah.
or, his hunting shows, whatever it is that, he enjoys, or, it could be your closet with your own little dressing area in there, and you can just go in there and feel relaxed and
Yeah, I'd love
have your
that.
own space, a space that you can have your space and feel good. A child with their, a bedroom or a playroom or something that is theirs, and they can express
Yeah.
themselves and
Sense of
feel.
belonging.
They can color outside the lines and not get a frowny face.
With their oranges and their all their things. What about you, Carol?
Oh, I mean, pretty much the same thing as Kim, but I mean, just keeping it maintained, you know? I mean, just once you get it set, you know, it's always nice to go back every day and see it set the same way.
Just be proud of your space
Yeah.
and your home and that it's yours.
Yeah.
But awesome. Okay. Well, thank you both for joining us today. I know people will see more of your projects, of course, on Instagram. They see your work all the time in our showroom and on Instagram, of course. Remember, Kim's are going to have puns. So if you see a punny caption, we have a running list. So if you have any submittals that you would like to see, we're always looking for more. So send them our way. But thank you so much for watching. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching At Home with Anderson Design Center. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes, and we will see you on the next one.